Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Jaden. I'm a King James Bible believing street preacher based in New York City. And today's study is going to be on the seven heads of the dragon. This is going to be the first in a couple studies on Mystery Babylon. I can't cover everything in Mystery Babylon in one video. So we're starting with the seven heads of the dragon. Now, a couple disclaimers. The first thing is this teaching is going to contradict the last 80 years of Bible interpretation. I have read every single book on the topic that I can find from all the King James Bible believers who have taught this. So any argument you have against what I'm going to teach here, I've already heard it. I've read Clarence Larkin. I've read Ruckman. I've read his associate pastor. I read Gene Kim. I've read them all. I've seen them all. So, and I've concluded after a year of studying them all that they're all wrong. Not because I'm smart, but because when I read it, what I read and what the Bible says contradicts. So you're going to prove me, and if you don't agree with my interpretation, that's fine. But this is going to be pretty difficult to disprove. The last thing is you will need to put your emotions aside, okay? Because the interpretation that I came out with bothered me just as much as it's going to bother you. So if you are just going to cling to your own interpretations because of emotional reasons, you're going to be closed off, okay? This is a deep study on Mystery Babylon. This is one of the hardest doctrines to teach. So I may make a little errors here or there, but I'm going to try my best to keep it as simple as possible, all right? All right. Mystery Babylon and the seven heads of the dragon. We're going to get started with Revelation chapter 12. Revelation chapter 12. Revelation chapter 12. Mystery Babylon is one of the most weaponized topics online because people have like these weird interpretations like, oh, it's got to be America. And no, we're not doing that here. Revelation chapter 12. All right. Now, before you can get to the chapter about Mystery Babylon, I first have to start you off with Revelation chapter 12. You say, why? Because there are things about Revelation 17 that differ before you get to that chapter. So I'm going to lay the groundwork for you, and then I'm going to explain what's going on. So, Revelation chapter 12, we're going to look at verse 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. All right, let's start slow, okay? This is a difficult topic, so let's just break it down in monkey terms, okay? So we have Revelation 12, 12:3, okay? What do you see in that vision? You see a dragon. Now, this dragon here is not the beast. And when I say that, I mean this dragon here is not the Antichrist, because when you look in verse 7, the dragon here is warring with Michael in heaven. Okay, so that's not the Antichrist. That's the dragon himself. That's the devil himself. So that's Satan. Okay. Okay. Now, what do you notice about the vision? It's going to say in verse 3 again, he has 7 heads. So I'm drawing you here 7 red little cute dragon heads. Now, ignore this one for now. And okay, now if you notice, it also says that it has 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his heads. Okay, so now the issue with the passage, there's 2 issues here. The first issue is that these seven heads have crowns, but they also have horns. Now, the thing is, look how many horns it says he has. It says he has 10 horns. Well, the problem is, where on the heads do you put the 10 horns? You say, what do I mean? Well, it doesn't say which head the horns are on, or if the horns are on all 7 heads, right? So you are not going to be able to expound this. You need to leave it alone for now, and we have to progress the way that John has it set up, right? Now, you see that term there? Horns? We're going to come back to horns in a minute. I'm going to define for you what horns are according to the Bible. All right, now I'd like you to go to Revelation chapter 13. Revelation 13. Now look in Revelation 13, verse 1. Now remember that Revelation 13 is after the war in heaven. So in chapter 12, the devil is kicked out. And in Revelation 13, you're going to see that the devil, he comes out of the sea, but he's not called the dragon anymore. It says in verse 1, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads, 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the names of blasphemy. Okay, now here's where something changes. It says in the passage here that he saw a beast rise out of the sea. The beast here is not the devil. This is the mystery of iniquity, okay? So the mystery of iniquity is that in Revelation 13, so check this out. Revelation 13, you have the beast. Now, this is the mystery of iniquity. That's what this is. How is it that the devil is the devil and then the beast is the beast, but they're both the devil, but they're not? I can't explain it. So this is the mystery of iniquity, okay? Now, the way you know that the Revelation 13 here is talking about the beast is because it then says in the coming verses that the verse 3 that one of his heads, as it were wounded to death, his deadly wound was healed, and the whole world wondered after the beast. And then it says in verse 4, who is like unto the beast, who can make war with him? And in verse 5, this beast is then given power to continue to do his thing, right? So this beast here is obviously the Antichrist. There's no doubt about it. Now, notice in the passage that it says that in this, okay, so read carefully. It says that in the verse 1, his horns, what did it have on it? His horns has 10 crowns. But in chapter 12, before the devil is kicked out of heaven, it said it didn't say he had 10 crowns. If you want to go back there and check verse 3, it says he has 7 crowns. Something weird is going on here, right? Something weird is going on here. So in one case, the heads have the horns. There are 10 horns, and it has 7 crowns. But then in chapter 13, the 10 horns have 10 crowns. So where do the horns go? See, that's the confusion. All right, now we're going to go to Revelation 17. We're going to go to Revelation 17. And now we're going to talk about Mystery Babylon. So now what I'm trying to illustrate to you is that whatever happened in between chapter 12 and chapter 13 changed because this 10 horns now has 10 crowns. Now, what happens in Revelation 13? Well, what you're seeing there is that the beast is given power to continue 42 months. So the beast, the Antichrist, is when he becomes the son of perdition, how long is he reigning? 3.5 years, right? So in that passage, that means that when he takes the throne in the Great Tribulation, that's what starts it. So in other words, let me just re-clarify. Revelation chapter 12, devil's kicked out of heaven. Chapter 13, the beast is risen up from the dead, and then he does his miracle or whatever. And then it says he was given power to continue 42 months. That means that the Antichrist, when he was given power to reign 42 months, how long is 42 months? 3.5 years, right? Now, if he's given power to reign 42 months, that means that that's the start of the Great Tribulation. See that? Because the beast, that's the son of perdition. So that means that Revelation 13 is the start of the Great Tribulation. That's all that means. But you notice that if that's the start of the Great Tribulation and he has 10 crowns in Revelation 13, that means that something is going on here, right? Well, in order to really get the interpretation, you got to go to Revelation 17. All right. Now, this is where we're going to have to slow down because now there's a lot of details we got to get into. Let's look at Revelation 17 and verse 1. In the second half, it says, I will show thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. All right, now, is this woman literally committing literal fornication? Well, let's keep reading. He carried me away into the spirit in the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Look, it says it again. Now this woman is sitting on top of the devil, the Satan. The way you know that is because it says 7 heads and 10 horns, but it doesn't say the crowns. So we can only infer that it's talking about Satan, not the beast, okay? Now, let's keep reading. And the woman was arrayed in purple, scarlet color, decked with gold, precious stones, and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon, the Great, the mother of harlots, and the abominations of the earth. And the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Okay. So I'm going through the passage just to get you familiar with the text, but we're going to keep rereading the verses. Now, obviously, the woman in verse 4 has royal colors. She commits fornication, and the kings have committed fornication with her. So that means that all the nations have partaken of this woman, right? Now, it also says that Mystery Babylon is called the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. I'm going to define for you what that actually means in a minute. And then it also says that she has the blood of the martyrs of Jesus, right? Now, you already are thinking in your head, you already know who this is talking about. Let's keep reading. We want to go all the way to verse 9. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. All right, so there's no doubt. There's no doubt, 100%. It's literally 100% sure that Mystery Babylon right now is the Roman Catholic Church. There is literally no argument about that. The Roman Catholic Church was responsible for the death of millions of the saints of the Christians. The Roman Catholic Church fits verse 4. It has all the colors and all the royalty colors of the purple and golden cup and all that stuff. The Roman Catholic Church is a woman. It's obsessed with female deities. And the Vatican is situated on the 7 mountains of Rome. I'll put a picture on the screen. So there's no doubt that the woman here is Rome, but you cannot limit your Bible interpretation to the literal 7 mountains. You have to remember, in the Bible, there are other interpretations. There are doctrinal, there's spiritual, and literal. So there are literally 7 mountains of Rome, but then there's also the spiritual application that you have to take into account. God is a spirit. Now, the way you know that is because you're given an equation in the text. It says, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, 1 is, and the other is not yet come. Okay, so I'm going to set this up for you now, and then we're going to go back and review what we just read so I can define for you piece by piece what Mystery Babylon exactly is. So it says 5 are fallen. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We have 5 kings. 5 kings. 5 are fallen. All right. So 5 are fallen. 1 is. This one is. And it says, but the other is not yet come. Okay. So now that we have this equation, we need to take a break for a minute and we need to define some Bible terminologies. Okay. So let's start with horns. Okay. How does the Bible define horns? We're going to go to the book of Daniel. Let's start with that. We're going to go piece by piece. I'm going to break it down so simple. And so far, if you are a Bible believer, you do not disagree with anything I've said so far, but you'll see the fork in the road. I'll show you the fork in the road. All right. Let me actually write this for you on the board so that you can have it, so you can review it as we go through. So, horns in the Bible, how are they defined? I'm going to give you many witnesses to something so that you don't think I'm just making this up. Daniel chapter 7. Daniel 7:24. All right, Daniel 7:24, it says, and the 10 horns of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. Horns are kings. See that? The 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings. So here's the first witness. Horns are kings. That's Daniel 7:24. Let me give you another one. We're going to look at the book of Daniel chapter 8. And verse 20, the ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia. See that? Horns are kings. Right? So Daniel 8:20. Let me show you another one. Go to the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah 48. Now this passage, Jeremiah, has double application. It's referring to the Antichrist and referring to the king thing, but I can still show it to you. Jeremiah 48 in verse 25. The horn of Moab is cut off. See that? His arm is broken, saith the Lord. Horns are kings. All right. So now when you are reading about the devil, it says he has 7 heads and different horns. One of the heads has 10 horns. But what are those 10 horns? Well, Daniel told you there were 10 kings. See that? Horns are kings. All right, now let's go back to Revelation chapter 17. Let's look at another issue that we have, Revelation 17. This is a serious Bible study. All right, Revelation chapter 17. All right, now we want to look at another verse real quick. Let's look at this verse right here, verse 9. Here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. All right, so like I said, literal 7 mountains, but there's another application here. There's a second application here. Okay, go to Daniel chapter 2. Go to Daniel chapter 2. Let me show you what mountains represent in the Bible. Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2. Daniel 2 and verse 34. Thou sawest till a stone was cut out without hands. Who was the stone cut out without hands? That's Jesus. Okay, you already know that. Which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, the gold broken to pieces, and became like chaff of the summer threshing floors, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain. You see that? Now, who is the stone? That's Christ. But then if you look all the way down to verse 44, in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other pieces, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms and stand forever. What kingdom is that? That's Jesus' kingdom. But in the prophecy, when it's given in verse 34, he's likened to a stone that's cut out without hands. And it said that stone became a great mountain. Now that stone that becomes a great mountain, that's Jesus' kingdom. That's defined there in verse 44, which means a mountain is a kingdom. So that's why I'm saying you can't just limit something to the literal interpretation. People have already made up their minds about what they want this passage to talk about, so they refuse to apply the verse more. God is not bound by just one interpretation. Daniel 2, 34 to 35, and then it's verse 44. It gives you the interpretation. The stone cut out without hand that crushes the feet in iron. That's a kingdom that shall never be destroyed. That's Jesus' kingdom. He's likened to a mountain. You see that? All right. Now let's look at another example. Isaiah 14. Isaiah 14. Now this people miss this one is beyond me. Isaiah 14. Wasn't the devil trying to get to God's kingdom? The devil was trying to take over God's throne. Well, look what it says in verse 12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart. All right, there's a heavenly Mount Zion. We know there's a heavenly Mount Zion in heaven. Okay, Hebrews 12:20. I'll put it on the screen so you can check the cross references. Okay, there is a Mount Zion in heaven. That's a type of the one down here, right? So that means that when the devil is trying to ascend into God's place, it says in verse 13, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit where? Upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. What's a mount? A mountain. Because where is God? On heavenly Zion. So that's another one. Isaiah 14. How did Bible believers miss that one? All right. How about another one? Jeremiah. Jeremiah 51. Jeremiah 51. Okay. Verse 24, I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of the Chaldea all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight, saith the Lord. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith the Lord, which destroys all the earth. And I will stretch out mine hand upon thee and roll thee down from the rocks and will make thee a burnt mountain. Okay, you know this verse has to be an allegory. You say, why is this verse an allegory? God is calling Babylon a mountain. You know why it's an allegory? Go to Genesis chapter 11. Do you know how ridiculous this is? Isn't God the author of the Holy Scriptures? Go to Genesis 11 and look what the Babylon, that area, is called. Genesis 11 and verse 2. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar. The area of Babylon is flat. It's a plain. God called it a mountain. So you have two options. You either believe what you're reading or you make God an idiot. He called it destroying mountain. But Babylon is plain. It's a plain. It's a flat land. See what I mean? That means that kingdoms are mountains. You can't limit the interpretation to literal 7 mountains of the Catholic Church, because then you're gonna you've already made up your mind. You want the Pope to be the Antichrist. You have other applications in the text. That's why it says, "He that hath wisdom." Yes, I 100% agree that the Catholic Church is Mystery Babylon right now, but there's more left, man. People have missed out so much because they don't want to keep studying it. All right, let's go back to Revelation 17 now. Go back to Revelation 17. Revelation 17. Okay, so horns are kings. Now, you read in verse 9, the mind which hath wisdom, the 7 heads are 7 mountains. All right? So the 7 heads are 7 mountains. So the 7 heads of the dragon, the 7 heads of the devil represent mountains. And we just defined that mountains are kingdoms, okay? So mountains are kingdoms. So we'll do this here. These are kingdoms. That means that the woman, she is sitting on top of the devil. She's sitting on top of the beast. And this beast has 7 heads. And that means that this woman is something that is directly connected with the devil. Okay. Now, let's keep reading at this. Let's keep reading here. Now, what is her name again? In verse 5, upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon, the Great, the mother of harlots, abominations of the earth. Okay, so here in this text, you have it, Mystery Babylon. Now, the term mystery there is trying to tell you that it's something that's hidden, or it's something that's you're not going to understand 100%, right? Now, it's going to say here in the text, the mother of harlots, abominations of the earth. So is this a literal woman going around fornicating? No. Go to Ezekiel. Let me give you one of the interpretations. Ezekiel 16. Okay. Now, let's look at what God says. Now, this is not talking about Mystery Babylon, but the same premise is at play here. Verse 15, but thou didst trust in thine own beauty and played the harlot because of thy renown and poured out thy fornications on everyone that passed by. See that? His it was. Verse 17, thou hast also taken thy fair jewels of my gold and my silver, which I have given thee, and made to thyself images of men, and didst commit whoredom with them. See that? Let's go all the way down to verse 30. You can keep reading if you want. Verse 30 says, how weak is thine heart, saith the Lord God, seeing thou doest all these things, the work of an impoverished, imperious, whorish woman. Go to verse 35. Wherefore, look at the weird wording. O harlot, hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord God, because thy filthiness was poured out through thy nakedness, discovered through thy whoredoms with thy lovers. Look, with all thy idols and thy abominations. See that? By the blood of thy children, which thou didst give unto them. See that? It says in verse 38, I will judge thee as a woman that break wedlock and shed blood, and I will give thee in fury and jealousy. Notice the fornication here. Yes, Israel was committing evil, wicked fornication, idolater sins. But in the passage there, especially verse 36, it's connecting that with idolatry. So you have idols of thy abominations in verse 36. You see that? So that means that that means that if you go to Revelation 17, what is she called again? Read that again. What is Mystery Babylon called again? This woman? Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. What did Ezekiel connect harlots with? Idols, idolatry, and abominations of the earth. God considered the idols abominations, and he considered it as a type of harlotry. Now, why? Well, because the Jews are supposed to be his spiritual wife. So God the Father's wife is supposed to be Israel. I'll put these verses on the screen so I don't have to go through them for time's sake, right? So because of that, if they were leaving him to go commit idolatry with other idols, God likened that to fornication. They were stepping out of heaven. They were going over there and, messing with the idols, giving up their children to sacrifices, right? That means that this woman, Mystery Babylon, she is a wicked, evil woman, a spirit. It's a devilish spirit. And this spirit is directly connected with the devil. Now, the devil, he is likened, his heads are 7 kingdoms, which means that this woman has had a part in every single one of these 7 kingdoms. You see that? And so because she's a whore, she has the same idolatry, the same wicked religion, but she changes her clothes. So you can find her in history, but she's not called the same thing because she's a whore, right? Now, let's look at some characteristics, okay? Let's look at some characteristics about Mystery Babylon. The first thing about Mystery Babylon is that if she is an idolatrous religion, that means that she is going to be polytheistic. Polytheistic. These are some characteristics to identify Mystery Babylon, right? Another thing you want to know about Mystery Babylon is that whatever this nation is in religion that's influenced by her, this religion is going to do what? It's going to exalt female deities. Female deities. Now, you also notice that in the passage, it says that they had the blood of the martyrs. So this particular spirit that's been there for a long time, it hates God's people. And who's God's people in history? Well, they're the Jews, right? Now, the Christians are also God's people in a different way. But the Christians were not over here in the days of Genesis. Like, duh. So this whore has a special hate, for Jews. And then because the Catholic Church is Mystery Babylon right now, that means that she also has a special hate when we identify her for Christians. Okay, so these are some traits. Now, because she's polytheistic, what does she have? Idols. Right? Okay, now you're seeing some of the criteria. Now, the other criteria is, I'll add it here, one last one. She's directly connected with Satan. Directly connected with Satan. Okay, see that? Okay, now, so we need to be able to identify this. Now, there are thousands of kingdoms in history. There have been thousands of them. So how are we supposed to narrow all these down, right? Well, we'll just stick with the ones in the Bible because God gave us the Bible, so we should be able to find out the equation from there, right? Now, there are parts of Revelation 17 I'm skipping because they have to do with the Antichrist himself, which is why I skipped verse 8, right? Now, okay, let's just review real quick. Horns are kings. So, or let's even go back further. Revelation chapter 12. The devil shows up. He has 7 heads and he has these horns, right? Now, the devil hasn't been kicked out of heaven yet, but Revelation chapter 12, the tribulation has not started yet. When he's kicked out by Michael, he then shows up out of the sea as the beast. Power is given unto the beast to continue 40 and 2 months. So if he's going to continue those 40 and 2 months, that means the beast who comes up from the dead, the son of perdition, that's going to mark the beginning of the Great Tribulation. Now, in the text, in Revelation 12, the devil does not have 10 crowns, but in Revelation 13, he has 10 crowns. Now, crowns and horns are used interchangeably. I forgot to mention that before, but they represent the same thing. Now, if you have in Revelation 13, if the beast has 10 crowns on, right? And he's not 10 crowns over here, that means that something changed between Revelation 12 and Revelation 13. What changed? Well, the Great Tribulation began in Revelation 13, right? Now, I'm not going to get into the 10 horns yet because we still haven't read any verse to tell us how to put it on the image. So for now, we're just going to continue on and go in the order it's set up. And let's just read verse 10, okay? Let's read verse 10. And once again, mountains are kingdoms. The heads of the dragon are 7 mountains. Okay. Verse 10. And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen. 1 is. And the other is not yet come. and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. Okay, so the problem now is he's saying this: 5 are fallen. So John is writing. When is John writing? John is writing in the time of Rome, in Domitian. So he's saying that 5 have fallen before him, before when John is. One is where John is, and then another has not yet come, right? Okay. Now, we need to be able to identify these 7 heads of the dragon. So who are these 7 nations that Mystery Babylon had influence over? Well, the first one is undoubtedly, the first king is going to be Nimrod. What was Nimrod king of? Babel. Why do I say this? He is one of the greatest pictures of the Antichrist. That's number one. The second reason why you want to have this is because before the flood, there were no images. I'm going to put it on the screen so you can check the verse. Before the flood, there are no idols. Now, it is possible that the angels were being worshipped by men, but until the flood happened, you only get idols in groves and stuff after the flood. In fact, the first time images shows up in terms of an idolatrous image is when Rachel steals it from Laban, right? So what that's telling you is that idolatry came from there. Now, where would it have come from, right? There's a book by a man named Alexander Hislop. It's called The Two Babylons. And the origin of all the false pagan polytheistic religions, they have, in his case, it's Tammuz, Semiramis, and all those other ones were like incest gods and stuff like that. So I don't know, Bible believer disagrees about this. So I think we're clear to say that it's going to be Nimrod and Babel. Now this means that the first head of the dragon is going to be Babel, and that mystery Babylon was born from this nation, right? All right, go to Isaiah 51. The second head of the dragon is no doubt Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Go to Isaiah 51. Isaiah 51. Isaiah. Now, what I'm saying so far, Bible believers do not disagree with, but when we get to the second half of the heads of the dragon, that's where there's a fork in the road. Isaiah 51. Isaiah 51. Isaiah 51. Okay, now look at this. In verse 9, awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of the Lord. Awake as in the ancient days. So what happened in the past? In the generations of old. Art thou not it that hath cut Rahab and wounded the dragon? Now, this is talking about Egypt. I don't have to go to the Hebrew to prove that. Just keep reading the passage. It said, by the way, who's the arm of the Lord? Who's the arm of the Lord? Jesus. He's the right hand of God. So it's saying here, as in ancient days, are not thou it that cut Rahab and wounded the dragon? Art thou not it that hath dried up the sea, the waters of the great deep, and hath made depths of the sea a way for the ransom to pass over? The great deep there is not the one in the sea of glass. That's not that great deep. This is talking about the Red Sea, because it says for the ransom to pass over. When did any ransom pass over the great deep above the second heavens? It's not talking about that. It's not talking about that. It's talking about when God parted the Red Sea. And you know that because it says in verse 11, therefore the redeemed of the Lord shall return and come with singing unto Zion. See that? The redeemed of the Lord are going to come singing to Zion. He's likening that to what happened in verse 10. As in the ancient days. Pharaoh is one of the greatest antichrists in the Bible. First of all, in the passage you read there, Rahab, which is no doubt Egypt, there's no doubt it's Egypt, he called the dragon. Okay? So he's talking about ancient days, right? Now, the next thing is, Egypt has so many gods like Osiris and Isis, right? And those gods are just another variation of Nimrod with Semiramis and Tammuz, right? Now, what are the categories again? What did I say are the categories again? Egypt has so many female deities. Egypt hated the Jews. Polytheistic idols. Pharaoh, he's called the dragon. So there's no doubt. There's no doubt about this. Pharaoh, The second head of the dragon is Pharaoh. What's the kingdom? Egypt. Okay. Now, the third head of the dragon, we're going to look at this. Go to the book of Nahum. Nahum. The third head of the dragon is undoubtedly Sennacherib, king of Assyria. Go to the book of Nahum in the Minor Prophets. Chapter 1. Sennacherib is no doubt one of the greatest Antichrist types in the Old Testament. So let's keep reading. All right. The burden of Nineveh. Now, let's go all the way to verse 11. So, by the way, Nineveh is in Assyria. So this prophecy was given by Nahum against Sennacherib. Now, look how perfectly Nahum prophesies what's going to happen to Sennacherib. Verse 11, there is one come out of thee that imagineth evil against thee, O wicked counselor. That's Sennacherib. Thus saith the Lord, though they be quiet and likewise many, referring to the Assyrian army, yet thus shall they be cut down when he shall pass through. Though I have afflicted thee, Israel, I will afflict thee no more. For now will I break his yoke from off thee and will burst thy bonds in asunder. See that? And the Lord had given a commandment concerning thee, that no more of thy name be sown out of the house of thy gods. Will I cut off, look, the graven image and the molten image. I will make thy grave, for thou art vile, referring to Sennacherib. That's when Nahum is prophesying this. This is after Jonah. Go to chapter 3 of Nahum. Notice how the prophecy against Sennacherib, the king of Assyria here, it's really strange. In chapter 3, it sounds like he's talking about Babylon. It says in verse 1, woe to the bloody city. It is all full of lies and robbery, and the prey departeth not. Go to verse 4, because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts. Behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will show the nations thy nakedness and the kingdoms thy shame. Why does that sound like Mystery Babylon? Well, because it's the same spirit behind Nimrod and Pharaoh is the same spirit behind King of Assyria. This is no doubt. King of Assyria is no doubt the third head of the dragon. The third head of the dragon. There's just no doubt about this. By the way, in Micah chapter 5, you can read it. There's a prophecy about a man called the Assyrian, and that prophecy never happened in the time of Sennacherib. I'm going to put it on the screen so you can read it. There's no doubt that the third head of the dragon here is going to be Sennacherib. Sennacherib. What is he? King of Assyria. We'll just put Assyria. We'll put Assyrian kingdom. Okay. We're urging it close to the point where stuff is going to start changing. Okay. So notice how these three kingdoms up here have to do with the prophecies and the kingdoms before Nebuchadnezzar. But now, who shows up? You start getting Daniel's prophecy now, right? So let's start going to Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2. Here's where they mess up. Every single expositor, because they've already made up their mind about end time prophecy that they refuse. You'll see. Daniel chapter 2. Okay. So in Daniel's prophecy, you are given an image. And in the image, there's a head of gold, and then there's the silver here, and then the belly and brass thighs. Then you have the iron legs, and then you have the feet, and then the miry clay mixed together. So you have in the image, I'm going to post a picture on the screen so you can see it. There's a degeneration of the metals. So you start with gold, which is the best, and then by the time you get to the bottom, it's just this miry clay mixed with iron, right? Okay, now the thing is that in the image, the point of the image is that Daniel is giving you the prophecy of the kingdoms from the time of Nebuchadnezzar all the way to the coming of the Messiah. So let's look at Daniel's image real quick. Daniel chapter 2. It says, In verse 36, this is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation before the king. Thou art a king of kings. Pause right there. Nebuchadnezzar is the one being spoken to here. What is he called there? A king of kings. That marks him as a type of the Antichrist, because Jesus is called King of Kings, all block letters. He's called a King of Kings. Let's keep reading. For the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, right? Whithersoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field, the fowls of the heaven, hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. So the head of gold is Babylon. So let's do this. See this thing I put element right here? So element one is head of gold. Now, who is the head of gold? He said it, thou art this head of gold, referring to Nebuchadnezzar, which means that Babylon shows up again as one of the heads of the dragon. See that? So really interesting that the head of the dragon started in Babel, decided to bunny hop a couple of kingdoms, and then boom, wants to go back to the original one. Okay, now here is where people get messed up. So, well, I guess I should probably show you more verses to prove that Nebuchadnezzar is a type of the Antichrist. Let me show you that verse. We're going to go to the book of Jeremiah 51, before I continue this. Jeremiah 51. All right, now look what Nebuchadnezzar is called. By the way, when Nebuchadnezzar makes his phallic image, it's literally 60 and 6. Jeremiah 51, verse 34. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, hath devoured me. He hath crushed me. He hath made me an empty vessel. He hath swallowed me up like a dragon. Okay, come on. I don't really think I have to argue too much with this one. Everybody knows Nebuchadnezzar is an Antichrist. I mean, he literally has like 5 million gods. He told the people, if you don't listen to the psaltery and the music and the harp, and you don't bow down before the image, you get killed. That's what the Antichrist does. If you don't worship his image, you get killed. Okay, this is a no-brainer. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. Okay, now let's go back to Daniel chapter 2. Now, in Daniel's prophecy, you're given the order of the image. So let's just read through it together, and then I will show you what's going on here. Daniel chapter 2. Okay. Daniel chapter 2. We're going to continue reading from where we were before, and let's go to verse 39. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, it shall break in pieces. In the image, you have an element. There are 4 elements. Okay, so element number 1 is going to be the head of gold. Okay, this is going to be number 1. Now, element number 2, what is it going to be? Let's look at the verse again. Element number 2, it says in verse, we'll have to go back to the image in the previous passage. It's going to say in verse 32, the image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver. So it's breast and arms of what? Silver. So that's going to be number 2. All right, let's keep reading the passage. Now, what did it say after the belly of the arms of silver? It says his belly and his thighs of brass. Okay, so bellies and thighs of brass. That's going to be the next kingdom. That's going to be belly/thighs. Okay, see that? All right. Now it's also going to say the iron legs, which is the 4th one. And then after that, you get to the feet, which is going to be number 5. And then you get to the 10 toes. Now, what are the 10 toes? That's the 10 toes kingdom of the Antichrist, right? Now, here's how the image is given in the prophecy. You see that? The head is Nebuchadnezzar. Now, the next kingdom on the list is going to be Persia on the image. I'm going to show you that in a minute. The next one is going to be Greece. Now, the number 4 is going to be Rome. And then number 5 is going to be the Antichrist as the man of sin. and it degenerates into the 10 toes. That's how the image is set up. Now, what the expositors do is that they force this setup of the image onto the heads of the dragon. They assume, because everyone wants the Catholic Church to be the kingdom of the Antichrist, they assume that this has to match this. But you can't do that. You say, why can't you do that? Because the big boo-boo here is Persia. Let me show you this real quick before I continue expositing. Go to Daniel chapter 8. Go to Daniel chapter 8. You can just look at it real quick here. It's in verse 7. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram and brake his horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, stamped upon him, and there was none to deliver the ram out of his hand. What is the interpretation? It's going to say it in verse 20 gives you the interpretation. The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. So you're being told that there's 2 other horns. One of them is going to be Persia, of one of the rams, and then there's the rough he-goat, which is Greece. So in that prophecy, the rough he-goat is 100% Alexander the Great. Nobody debates that. So now that you have this set up, let me ask you a question. Can this image superimpose itself onto the heads of the dragon? Here's what people do. They say that, okay, number 4 is going to be Nebuchadnezzar. Number 5 is going to be Persia. Then you're going to have Greece. Then you're going to have Rome as the kingdom of the Antichrist. That's not going to work. You say, why doesn't it work? Well, because Persia is not a kingdom of the Antichrist. Mystery Babylon was never in Persia. Let me show you something. Polytheistic. Were the Persians polytheistic? No. Let me show you something. What was the religion of Persia? Zoroastrian. Zoroastrian is monotheistic. Persia did not have idols. Not that I know of. They're monotheistic. Here's another problem. Did Persia ever persecute the Jewish people? No, dude, Mordecai reigned with the Persians. They never persecuted the Jews. Now, don't talk about Haman. That's an isolated incident, but as a nation, they didn't have a hate for the Jews. So already you have this problem. This is gone. This is gone. Persia was never corrected with Satan. Go to Isaiah 45. Go to Isaiah 45. If you are honest with yourself, you will accept this. You cannot have Persia be one of the heads of the dragon. Persia was never connected with the head of the dragon. Isaiah 45. Look at Cyrus's title. Look at Cyrus's title. Look in verse Isaiah 44, not 45. Isaiah 44 verse 27. That saith to the deep, be dry, and I will dry up thy rivers. That saith of Cyrus. Listen carefully. He is my shepherd, and shall perform all my pleasure, even saying to Jerusalem, thou shalt be built, and to the temple, thy foundation shall be laid. Is that the Antichrist? He's called my shepherd. He rebuilds the temple. He helps the Jews. He takes care of them. Every single Bible teacher makes this Persia the heads of the dragon, trying to force the image onto the heads of the dragon because they want Rome to be the kingdom of the Antichrist. Sorry, it's not going to work. You break interpretation by doing this. So you know how you fix this problem? You cut Persia off the list. You don't add Persia onto the heads of the dragon from Daniel's prophecy, which means that if you do that, you skip an element. So you have Nebuchadnezzar as the 4th head of the dragon, and you skip an element on the image. So it's going to look like this. Element 3. Who is that going to be? Well, you skip Persia and go to Greece. So you're going to have the Grecian kingdom as the belly and thighs of brass. So belly, thighs. You see that? Now, what kingdom would that be? Well, Alexander the Great is a big distraction. The actual person here would be Antiochus Epiphanes. You've probably never even heard of this guy, but he is basically Nebuchadnezzar, but Greek. This guy did everything Nebuchadnezzar did to the Jews, but as a Greek kingdom, as a Greek king. Now, what people do is they say, well, you can't do that because when Antiochus Epiphanes was king of Greece, the Grecian kingdom was split into 4 parts, but that's not going to work. You can't use it as a counter argument because to God, Greece was still the kingdom. The Grecian kingdom was still the world power, even though they were split. Rome didn't become a world power until after Greece fell. So that 4-way split between the Syrian kingdoms and the Greece, that didn't matter to God. He still considered them the Grecian kingdom. Now, Antiochus Epiphanes, not only was when he one of the worst like evil men like Nebuchadnezzar that did what he did to the Jews, he's prophesied about in the book of Daniel, and he is so much like the Antichrist that every expositor makes him the Antichrist in Daniel. Here, look. There's double application. Daniel 11. These passages are talking about the Antichrist, but historically it's talking about Antiochus Epiphanes. Daniel 11. Now, I don't have to convince you about I shouldn't have to convince you about this. Greece persecuted the Jews. That fulfills this. Greece was directly connected with Satan. That fulfills this. Greece has 1 billion idols, and they're all like girls, and they do incest and all that stuff. That fulfills these two. There's no doubt about this. This person right here, it says in Daniel 11:21, it says, in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. Yeah, that's Antiochus Epiphanes. Now, the Antichrist will do that, but that's not talking about the Antichrist. He's almost like the Antichrist. Verse 20, then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes. That's what the Antichrist is going to do, tax people into oblivion. But that's not talking about the Antichrist. That's talking about Antiochus Epiphanes in history. It's just he's not mentioned by name in the scriptures. In fact, most of that period in history is prophesied in Daniel, but Christians don't know anything about that period in history because the Bible rarely talks about it. Go to Daniel chapter, go to Daniel 7, or Daniel 8. Verse 9, verse 8, therefore the he-goat waxed very strong, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and it came up 4 notable ones towards the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn. The little horn there is not the Antichrist. Although it's both. The little horn is the Antichrist, and but it's doctrine referring to Antiochus Epiphanes, because this is talking about that when Alexander the Great smashed the kingdoms and Greece split into 4 kingdoms, that a little horn, what is a horn? A little king came out of one of those kingdoms. Right? Now, the Antichrist will come out of Syria. So he is the little horn of one of those so-called 4 kingdom splits. But historically, that's not talking about this. That's talking about Greece. Antiochus Epiphanes is so much like the Antichrist himself that people make them the same. But there's subtle differences here that don't match. So there's no doubt about this. You can't have Persia be one of the heads of the dragon. If you deny this, you are being emotional. I studied this topic for a year. And every single expositor says that the kingdom of the Antichrist is Rome, the Pope. That's not going to work. The Pope fits all the conditions because he's Mystery Babylon right now, but he won't be in the future. He can't be. So you have Antiochus Epiphanes reigning over Greece. That means you skip one of the image medals and you go from the 4th head of the dragon, Nebuchadnezzar, and then you skip a medal. You skip Persia, because Persia is called my shepherd. Shepherds are not types of the Antichrist. And then you go to the 5th head of the dragon right here, and that will give you Greece, Antiochus Epiphanes. If you want to read more about him, just read Josephus. All right, now, once you get down here, what does John say? He says, 5 are fallen, 1 is. Who is? Well, that's Rome. That's Rome. That's going to be Domitian. Everybody knows that. So 5 are fallen, 1 is Rome, the other is not yet come. Go to Revelation 17. Now, for all my people out there watching here that are from Europe, I understand why you believe that the kingdom of the Antichrist is Rome. I understand why. But you got to understand this. In God's eyes, Rome has been the world power since the time of John, the time of Jesus, right? That means that right now, Rome is Mystery Babylon. And that Rome, maybe it may be Domitian back then. Well, now it's the Pope, but it's still the same kingdom. It never changed for God. Now, what element is that going to be on the image? What element? What is Rome on the image? Number four. The iron legs. Now, the problem with older generation Christians, and I'm not trying to say this in a slanderous way, is that they've lived under Rome's tyranny so long that they can't see a world where Rome falls. But you got to understand that Rome is the iron legs. God is going to break the iron legs of Rome. Rome is hard to break. Iron is hard to break. But see, I'm a young person. So for me, I don't have the bias of having been around when Rome was in power. But you know what I see? You know why everyone thinks that America is Mystery Babylon? Did you ever sit down to consider why? Well, because America has all the characteristics of Mystery Babylon, but the reason people think that is because they don't know this. You see, half of the American government is controlled by the Jesuits. Most of the problems in the latter half of church history is because of the Jesuits. Now, the Jesuits have so much subtle control over every fabric of everything: education, science, technology, manuscript evidence. They control everything, right? You would agree. And so if Rome's power is through America, America is a Roman government. Our government is based off the law of Moses. We have the King James Bible as the foundation of our government, but our setup, our system, everything about America is Roman. Congress is Roman. The Senate, the House of Representatives comes from Rome. Our whole government is Roman. They have idols and all that stuff. They have the woman, I forget her name, in the American government with the blindfold and the scales. That's from Rome. Half our government are Roman Catholics. So you want to know what God has to do to destroy Rome? If I'm correct, he has to destroy America. Because the fall of the Vatican will be the fall of America. If there's no America, there's no Rome. Where's Rome going to go? There's no other country for them to take over. You know what I mean? Now, the older Christians don't see it that way because they're patriotic. I understand. But you have to look at things biblically. You can't have Rome be the kingdom of the Antichrist. The only way you get that interpretation is by having Persia be in the image. But Persia is not a type of the Antichrist. It never is in the Bible. Nowhere. Nowhere in the Bible. You can't find a single verse. Nowhere in history you can find it. God called him my shepherd. If you want to make Persia one of the heads of the dragon, you're denying Bible interpretation. There are no evil shepherds in the Old Testament. You have to be honest. Rome, the fact that John told you that Rome is identifying who Mystery Babylon is now. Mystery Babylon is the Catholic Church right now. But the Catholic Church, the iron legs of Rome have to be broken for this next section to come in. Revelation chapter 17. Probably gonna lose subscribers for this. Whatever, man. Revelation chapter 17, verse 10. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, 1 is, and the other is not yet come. But when he cometh, he must continue a short space. I'll watch it. The beast that was and is not, he is the 8th and is of the 7. That's why I drew this here. The beast that was and is not. So there's a 7th kingdom that when it comes, he must come a short while, but that when he comes, he is the 8th, but he's of the 7. Keep reading. The beast that was and is not, he is the 8th and is of the 7th and goeth into perdition. Okay, let's stop right there for a second. So the beast that was and is not, he is the 8th and goes into perdition. That means that the 8th head of the dragon is the 7th head of the dragon. But this 7th head of the dragon goes into perdition. That means that the 7th head of the dragon has not come yet. This man of sin is not here yet, although the spirit is still working according to 2 Thessalonians, right? The mystery of iniquity. So the 7th head of the dragon is not come yet. We are in Rome. Mystery Babylon for the Christians is the Catholic Church. But then when you get to the seventh head of the dragon, that's a different kingdom. So you have the man of sin here, who's the seventh. And he said, the beast that was and is not, he is of the eighth. That means why? Because the seventh, he goes into perdition. See that? Now, if the seventh is the kingdom of the man of sin, and then he gets killed and resurrects as the son of perdition and goes into perdition, what did I tell you in Revelation 13? Revelation 13, you have the beast who is the son of perdition. That man had how many crowns in Revelation 13? He had 10 crowns. So now look in this book. Look at Revelation 17 and go all the way to verse 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are what? 10 kings which have received no kingdom as of yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. The horns which they saw are 10 kings who have what? Power with the beast. That means that the 10 horns aren't on these dragons. The 10 horns are on this guy. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 horns on this guy. That's what that's referring to. Read it again so you don't think I'm making it up. It says it in 17:12. The 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as of yet. So the seventh head of the dragon doesn't have the 10 horns, but this one does. Because they haven't received it yet. When he goes into perdition, then they get the 10 horns. Then you have the 10 kings. See that? All right. Now, watch this in verse 16. The 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore and shall make her desolate and naked. So these 10 kings of the Antichrist, they are going to hate the woman that they were originally attached to, and they will burn her alive and destroy her. Well, that means that these 10 horns of the Antichrist, who have 10 crowns, what does it match? It matches the 10 toes. That means that the feet of the image is going to be like this. The seventh kingdom will be the feet of the image, but as the feet degrade, it slowly gets worse and worse until you get to the 10 toes, where Jesus will crush the 10 kings of the Antichrist. Now, who is Mystery Babylon, the seventh kingdom after that? Well, I got to make a video on that. I got to make videos of the beast of Daniel, and then I can identify. I believe I know who the next kingdom is. So I'll close it out on there. This is going to be a controversial video for some people. Most people want Rome to be the kingdom of the Antichrist, but there are other mysterious prophecies in the Old Testament that if you have this correct interpretation, which I believe to be correct, there's a lot of mysteries in the Bible that God has revealed. I don't want to hear anybody say something stupid like, you think you're smarter than Ruckman and smarter than these men of God? You have to move on. I learned a lot from Peter S. Ruckman, but you have to move on. The Bible's not done with Peter S. Ruckman. It's not done with Clarence Larkin and C.I. Schofield, right? So, make the board available. Grace be to you all.